Wait a minute, hold on a second, Ron. We've got some problems going here. John Davidson is down there, right in the thick of things.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 20 craziest sports brawls.
Now Ramirez. That ball's not even close.
For this list, we'll be looking at the most chaotic, violent, and/or surprising fights in professional sports. Did we forget to mention your favorite sports brawl? Let us know in the comments below. Number 20, Guardians versus White Sox. What could have been an ordinary play at second base became an internet meme. Cleveland Guardian Jose Ramirez went in for a slide, but Chicago White Sox infielder Tim Anderson wasn't ready to play nice. Their verbal exchange turned sour as Anderson put up hands for a boxing match. The umpire failed to break it up, leaving both sides to turn physical. With both benches coming in to help, Ramirez connected with his opponent's jaw and dropped him. Coaches and managers later got involved in separate incidents that kept the fight going for several minutes.
It's Mike Sarbaugh now getting after Pedro Grifol, and off we go, spilling into foul territory in as long of a brawl as you're going to see in Major League Baseball nowadays, and it's not over.
All in all, ejections and suspensions were handed out to members of both organizations. Number 19, Riddick Bowe versus Andrew Golota. For this face-off at Madison Square Garden, two heavyweights entered the ring to do battle. Riddick Bowe and Andrew Golota kept the fight interesting until the latter threw an illegal punch. With Bowe writhing on the ground, Golota was charged by his opponent's entourage. The ring was soon stormed by all kinds of wannabe fighters as a riot ensued. Despite attempts to break it off, dozens of spectators ended up inside the ropes.
After the last low blow and the disqualification, and now the riot has spread.
The violent clash led to several arrests and numerous injuries. Following this brutal exhibition, the Bruisers held a rematch that same year despite the aftermath of this botched event. Number 18, Angels versus Mariners. With a growing feud between teams, this confrontation stemmed from a few questionable pitchers in previous at-bats. Angels pitcher Andrew Wantz kept the bad blood boiling by hitting batter Jesse Winker.
And he just hit Winker. Erica with the first pitch. Scott Service is calling for him to be thrown out of the game.
Instead of going for Wantz, the angry Mariner decided to yell at the Angels' dugout. This led to a full-scale battle between the two teams. It seemed like every active player was on the field trying to get in on the action, including members of the bullpen. When all was said and done, 8 people were ejected for their part in the vicious brawl. Number 17, James versus Stewart. While it all seemed like a misunderstanding, this fight between LeBron James and Isaiah Stewart started with some rough contact. The Los Angeles Laker boxed out his opponent and hit him in the face. The Detroit Pistons started to chirp back at James, leading to some pushing and shoving between teams.
Uh-oh, Stewart and LeBron. Stewart is hot, and everybody's coming out now.
Stewart appeared to have a serious cut from the blood dripping off of him. After being restrained, he decided to charge the star Laker again and pushed aside anyone in his way.
And he's still trying to get loose.
He is knocking over, and he's out of the game.
It all seemed to ramp up from an apparent accident to a full-on rumble. Stewart was suspended 2 games while James only had to drop 1 from his schedule. Number 16, Giants versus Nationals. As an MLB pitcher, you never know what'll happen after you hit a batter. It's sometimes best to assume that the likes of Bryce Harper will retaliate if they're in the wrong mood. This happens for Giants reliever Hunter Strickland in this clip, but the fight got even worse when Harper utilized an unlikely weapon.
It's a piece of Hunter Strickland. Here they go.
The Nationals batter decided to whip his helmet at the pitcher in a fit of anger. Thankfully for Strickland, the headgear didn't connect with him. This didn't stop the brawl, however, as both teams came to the rescue. It all happened in a flash, with both players quickly disappearing inside of a much larger altercation. Number 15, Machado versus Ventura. To start off this particular brawl, pitcher Yordano Ventura hit Manny Machado with the ball.
Here we go. And Manny and Ventura are going at it on the mound. And this is a big-time brawl at Camden Yards.
The batter followed this up by charging the mound. While the two players exchanged blows, they each had an entire lineup to back them up. The Kansas City Royals and Baltimore Orioles took the field to defend their respective teammates. Not long after the tussle, Ventura and Machado were physically separated in order to prevent round 2. You can tell that both of them are seething with such anger that they could have gone on for much longer.
Manny and Ventura still barking at each other. Manny is being pulled away by C.B. Buckner.
The Orioles batter later doubled down on his decision, saying, "I don't regret anything." Number 14, Garrett versus Rudolph.
Here's a flag as... Whoa! Hello! Whoa!
Even though this NFL game was winding down, there was still enough time for the most unforgettable fight of the 2019 season. Cleveland Browns defender Myles Garrett tackled Pittsburgh Steelers quarterback Mason Rudolph in a confrontation that became ugly. Both players appeared to be fighting, grappling in a close quarters battle for each other's helmet. Garrett responded by taking Rudolph's headgear and swinging it at him. Other Steelers came to the quarterback's defense, pushing the Browns' defensive end to the ground and attacking him. The event resulted in fines for multiple players and a serious suspension for Garrett. Number 13, Australia versus Philippines. During a qualifying match for the FIBA World Cup, the Australian player Chris Goulding was knocked to the ground by an opponent from the Philippines. The foul inspired his teammate Daniel Kickert to do the same to the man responsible. After each of these shoves transpired, the two squads came to serious blows.
Oh my Lord, these are ugly, ugly scenes right now.
The brawl spilled off the court as Aussie and Filipino jerseys went every which way. Someone from the Filipino side even tossed a chair at an opposing player, turning this scrap into a dangerous battle. Members from both sides were suspended for the ensuing destruction. Number 12, Cardinals versus Reds. Following Brandon Phillips' harsh comments about the St. Louis Cardinals, this fight was almost bound to happen. The second baseman stepped up to the plate and got an earful from catcher Yadier Molina. While Phillips and Molina started it, the worst of it was yet to come. Things got ugly from there as the Cardinals and Reds decided to clear their benches.
Now Scott Rowland is getting into it.
And now it is turning ugly.
And it's with Chris Carpenter. And Carpenter's the one down there chirping.
At one point, both teams were up against the back netting in a scene out of a wrestling match. Players hit the ground in a mob scene that featured all kinds of punches and kicks.
This is not good at all because this is the kind of situation where somebody can get up, get hurt, get their finger stepped on, and it's just not baseball.
Catcher Jason LaRue received the worst injury of the bunch, sustaining a concussion that would put his career to bed. Number 11, Avalanche versus Red Wings. Inspired by an earlier incident where Claude Lemieux checked Chris Draper, the Colorado Avalanche and Detroit Red Wings were already testy at the start of this matchup. What followed was a night of fighting that came to be known as the Brawl in Hockeytown. A series of dust-ups started with Brent Severin and Jamie Pusher, eventually leading to all sorts of brawls with other players that included Darren McCarty going for Lemieux. McCarty did a number on the Avalanche stars, even the goalies fought for their teammates.
You never know when to expect it, Darren McCarty said before. Ferdinand Waugh!
There's really too many fights to count, but trust us that it wasn't pretty.
They are on their feet here at Joe Louis Arena. 301 days since the hit on Chris Draper. And look at Darren McCarty.
Number 10, Woody Hayes versus Clemson. In the last game of his collegiate career, Ohio State coach Woody Hayes led his team into the Gator Bowl against the Clemson Tigers. The close contest took a violent turn in the fourth quarter. After intercepting a pass from quarterback Art Schlichter, Clemson player Charlie Bowman wound up out of bounds on the Buckeyes sideline. Hayes then attacked Bowman with an unprecedented punch. This unsurprisingly incited both teams to fight each other, leading to significant penalties for the Buckeyes.
And we got a big fight going on. The officials buried in the middle. Come on now, quiet down, folks.
On the following day, the coach was fired for his actions. The infamous event marked the end of an era for OSU football. Number 9, Clint Bowyer versus Jeff Gordon. If you think that NASCAR drivers don't usually fight, this memorable bout from 2012 will change your mind. Clint Bowyer and Jeff Gordon were fostering a rivalry as they made the chase for the Sprint Cup. Gordon appeared to hit Bowyer, creating a pileup on the racetrack. The latter driver took it personally as they both headed into their respective pits. With each crew heated up, things got ugly between the rival teams.
Oh, conflict. The crews are in it. Somewhere in the middle of that is Jeff Gordon.
This all culminated with Bowyer racing towards his opponent in the hopes of starting something. While neither man fought each other face to face, Gordon was ultimately fined $100,000 for instigating the crash.
There's your side and there's my side. And then my side's right. Then there's the truth. Your side is literally out of your mind.
Number 8, Clemson versus South Carolina. As rivals from the same state, both the University of South Carolina and Clemson University have a history of dramatic confrontations. This particular game took things to the next level as the two teams got physical after the whistle blew. Tiger players went for the Gamecocks quarterback, initiating a brutal beatdown at midfield.
Both benches start to empty.
You knew this was going to happen sooner or later.
Both sidelines took off toward each other with little chance of keeping athletes away from each other. Helmets even came off as police were no match for evasive maneuvers and padded opponents. Each side suffered through suspensions and unwanted press, making the rivalry even more noteworthy.
But I'll tell you what, very embarrassing. Police have got to treat them like idiots now. Like the rioters and billy clubs, take them all out and pursue them.
Number 7, Cantona versus Crystal Palace. During this English football match between Manchester United and Crystal Palace, forward Eric Cantona lost his cool in a major way. The star player received a red card for kicking Richard Shaw. A normal sports fight might have happened between opponents, but this matchup really got going once the United footballer leaves the field. The Frenchman wasn't done kicking either, as he decided to unleash his anger on a verbally abusive fan.
Oh, what's going on here? Cantona's getting involved with some supporters. Oh, this is outrageous.
In what was described as a kung fu kick, Cantona was taken away before he could do much damage. He received a short prison sentence that was later changed to 120 hours of community service.
And once more, Eric Cantona is the man at the center of a dramatic controversy.
Number 6, Rangers versus White Sox. Pitcher Nolan Ryan might have been nearing the end of his career, but he could still fight like he was a rookie. Chicago White Sox batter Robin Ventura charged the mound after Ryan hit him in the back.
Here's Ventura, RBI single in the first. Watch out. Look at this.
Despite being the older player, the latter man did most of the punching during the altercation. Both the Rangers and the White Sox engaged in a melee with athletes strewn around the infield. Even after the initial confrontation cooled off, both teams started up again not long after.
And here we go again.
The legendary starter walked away largely unscathed and without an ejection. Number 5, Bruins versus Rangers. At the end of a close game, the Boston Bruins and New York Rangers started a fight in Madison Square Garden. Al Secord and Ulf Nilsson started the larger brawl that later included some fan interaction. Attendee John Captain managed to hit Stan Jonathan, provoking action from the latter's teammates.
O'Reilly's after somebody in the crowd. Oh, this could be bad. Oh, there go the Bruins. Oh, you hate to see this.
Bruins players such as enforcer Terry O'Reilly launched into the stands and even used one fan's shoe against them. O'Reilly and others received suspensions and fines for their participation in the incident. All these years later, it remains one of the most infamous nights in NHL history.
But that's the worst thing you can see in a hockey rink is when the players decide to go over that barricade.
Jim, but the fans have no right.
None. I agree with you, Bill.
No
completely.
right at all to take a player's stick from out of his hand.
Number 4, Red Sox versus Yankees. This particular rivalry is full of historic fights, but this one might top them all. Boston pitcher Pedro Martinez threw a ball over the head of New York batter Karim Garcia. Tensions prevailed until Red Sox outfielder Manny Ramirez stepped up to the plate against Roger Clemens. With a ball that seemed too close for his comfort, Ramirez charged the mound and incited both benches to take the field.
Now Ramirez. That ball's not even close.
During the confrontation, Yankees bench coach Don Zimmer headed right for Martinez. The latter athlete then took Zimmer to the ground in a controversial move.
Oh my goodness. Don Zimmer and Pedro Martinez. Oh.
That's awful.
While the lineups have since changed, the incident from the 2003 ALCS hasn't been forgotten. Number 3, Hurricanes versus Golden Panthers. Florida International University went up against University of Miami in this 2006 game. While verbal abuse was hurled back and forth, FIU became more angry after a touchdown celebration from Hurricanes player James Bryant. A fight broke out during the next play as Miami went for an extra point. Punches, kicks, and wrestling moves followed as the opponents went at it. The whole thing became so intense that the police had to break them up. You'd expect this kind of thing from a historic rivalry, but it's especially surprising coming from a seemingly ordinary matchup. Number 2, Braves versus Padres. During this tense game between Atlanta and San Diego, both teams threw balls at each other in a violent matchup. One brawl occurred in the 8th inning after Padres pitcher Craig Lefferts hit Braves man Pascual Perez. Perez's teammates made a break for Lefferts in what became a brutal battle.
For the 4th straight time, Perez coming to the plate, and we've got one going now.
Once the dust settled, the squads were clearly still angry with each other. An inning later, Braves pitcher Donnie Moore sent a pitch into the back of batter Craig Nettles.
And that pitch hits Craig Nettles, and he's going after Donnie Moore. Here we go again.
Both benches empty as the opponents create a massive pileup in the infield. This time, the fans eventually get involved in one of the more rebellious moments in MLB history. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all of them. If you're on your phone, make sure you go into your settings and switch on notifications. Number 1, Pacers versus Pistons. Among the craziest fights in sports history, this brawl started after the Indiana Pacer, once known as Ron Artest, fouled Detroit Piston Ben Wallace. What happened next took NBA disputes to a whole new level. Wallace went after Artest, leading to an extended period that included some unwanted fan interactions. One fan ended up throwing their drink at the Pacers' small forward, which inspired the player to enter the stands.
And out of the corner of my eye, I see it coming.
Super slow-mo. Like it just, everybody was supposed to see it. That's how slow it went.
resulting melee was complete chaos, with Artest going after the wrong person. Athletes and fans started duking it out in the subsequent confusion. Fines, criminal charges, and significant suspensions were dished out as a result. The event has gone on to become known as the Malice at the Palace. Did you enjoy this video? Check out these other clips from WatchMojo, and be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.